Blox Fruits has about 1 million different fruits inside the game. Well, not really, it's more like 30, but nonetheless, there's still a lot of choices, so today we're going to go over the top 5 most useful fruits in the game. Let's go. Before this video begins, this video is sponsored by U7Buy. U7Buy is a website that allows you to buy fruits, boosting anything Blox Fruit related and Roblox related. You can use the code Philly to get 5% off at checkout. Make sure to check them out in the description below. And a big thank you to U7Buy for sponsoring this video. Alright, so you might be wondering to yourself what I mean by useful. For a fruit to be considered useful and to be on this list, it must be good in all 3 different categories. Now, those categories are as follows: PvP, leveling up / farming bosses, and of course, sea beast hunting. So for a fruit to be on this list, it has to be good at all 3 of those. Okay, so starting the list at number 5 is going to be the Butterfruit. Now, you might be wondering, Philly, why is the Butterfruit not higher on the list? And that's because it kind of suffers in one of the categories. Now, of course, we all know that the Butterfruit is really good at leveling up. I mean, the extended range just makes leveling up in this game super easy, kind of boring, but it is very strong nonetheless, and you can level up very quickly with it. The Butterfruit can also be really good at PvP if you know how to use it. I mean, attacking people with the M1s after you've broken their instinct is incredibly overpowered, and you can kill anyone very quickly. Alright, so out of all 3 of the categories, I think the Butterfruit is the weakest in sea event hunting, just purely because you can't use the M1s on every single sea event. Now, if you could, it would 100% be the best fruit in the entire game for sea events, without a question. It's still very strong though, because you can, of course, use your swords and other things as like that to, of course, do damage. So it is still very strong hunting sea events, but a little bit weaker than maybe some of the other fruits on this list. That's why I have it at number 5. Alright, at number 4, of course, we have the Kitsune fruit. Now, before you get your pitchforks out and flames and stuff like that, let me explain. By far, Kitsune is one of the best fruits in the entire game for leveling up, purely because you can do this. See how I can just kind of M1 opponents, group them up, and M1 them? Extremely overpowered. Not to mention its absolutely ridiculous mobility as well, which is just like second to none. Which also makes it one of the best, if not the single best PvP fruit in the entire game. Kitsune is unmatched in basically those 2 categories, both leveling up and PvP. So just like the Butterfruit, the Kitsune suffers the most in sea beast hunting, just because the abilities aren't doing like a ton of damage to sea events. It can still hit basically every sea event, but the abilities aren't that great. The transformation doesn't really help you with sea events at all. And of course, there's one other factor, and that is because it is so incredibly rare to get this fruit, it kind of pushes it down the list just a little bit. At number 3 on this list, we have the Light Fruit. Now, the Light Fruit, there's a couple reasons I have it pretty high up on this list. First of all, we all know the Light Fruit actually has a weapon for its M1, which is very useful and means you can do quite a lot of damage. I mean, as you get later on in the game, it starts to fall off a little bit, but it is still very useful for leveling up. Not to mention, the abilities themselves are just incredible. They have good range, good damage, good everything. They are really just great abilities for leveling up, especially in the first sea. Now, when it comes to sea beast hunting, I believe the Light Fruit is in a weird spot because it's not super good and it's not super bad. It's kind of just in the middle of kind of like okay. It could stand to do a little bit more damage. If it did, it would be way better, but as it stands, it's alright. Now, I wouldn't say the Light Fruit suffers in really any category. It's both good in PvP, leveling, and sea beast hunting, and it's also extremely easy to get your hands on. It's just not as good as some of the other ones in every category. That's all. Alright, so number 2 on the list is going to be the Magma Fruit. Now, the reason I have the Magma Fruit here is because, first of all, for leveling up, it's very good. It's a Logia fruit, which means enemies without Haki cannot hit you at all. And of course, the damage is nothing to scoff at. I think it has literally the highest amount of damage in the entire game as well. It just does a ridiculous amount of damage because you basically sit them in lava the whole time. Now, when it comes to sea beast hunting, the Magma Fruit is truly dominant. Now, it is literally the best fruit in the entire game for sea beast hunting. You can do 50,000 damage to a sea beast in about 2 seconds using all the abilities from the Magma Fruit, and that's because the sea beasts and other sea events literally just sit in the magma while it just cooks them, basically. So it is by far the best fruit in the entire game for sea beast hunting, without a question of a doubt. Not to mention, the Magma Fruit is really easy to get your hands on. It's not a rare fruit by any means, so if you need to swap to it for any reason, it is very cheap to do so. You don't have to penalize yourself swapping off a really rare fruit like Kitsune or something like that. Now, I think where the Magma Fruit suffers probably the most out of the 3 categories is PvP. Now, it's still a very good PvP fruit, in my opinion, and that's because the damage is so ridiculously high that you can one-shot a lot of people if they are not careful. That being said, it is hard to one-shot people because, for the most part, to do the most amount of damage with the Magma Fruit, you have to sit people inside the actual magma after you've used the ability, and people aren't really just going to sit around and let you do that. And the Magma Fruit also has, like, no stun abilities, which means you need things like the Soul Guitar for it to be absolutely possible to kill them very quickly. Alright, so when it comes to number 1 spot, it's going to be the Blizzard Fruit. Now, that doesn't mean the Blizzard Fruit is a better fruit than the Kitsune or the Buddha Fruit by any means, guys. This just means that the Blizzard Fruit is one of the most useful fruits in the entire game if you don't want to swap off other fruits very frequently. And that is because the Blizzard Fruit can truly do it all. First of all, the abilities are very, very good for leveling up. As you can see, you can do quite a lot of damage, and the domain expansion is massive. It hits everything in the radius, it draws tons of enemies in, it does pretty solid damage, and you can follow up with other abilities like this. It's a very strong fruit for leveling up. Not to mention, it's a Logia fruit, which means if an enemy doesn't have Haki, they cannot hit you. So, as I said before, the Blizzard Fruit is literally amazing at everything, which means it's also really, really good at Sea Beast hunting. You can do tens of thousands of damage to ships, Sea Beast, anything, very, very quickly with this fruit. It's just incredibly overpowered. It's great. And when it comes to PvP, the Blizzard Fruit has it all as well. Lots of damage, good stun moves, good abilities. It's literally just a great fruit. It even has a bit of mobility with the Tornado Flight. Even though it's not that good mobility, it's still there and it can be useful sometimes. Alright guys, well there we have it. That is the video. If you guys think you have a better list of fruits that are more useful and more versatile, by all means put them down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.